my parking spot. You can't just take it.
Ma'am, I believe you're mistaken. This space is assigned to me.
Oh, please. You people always think you can take whatever you want.
Judge Nathaniel Reed, Court of Common Pleas.
There's no way you're a real judge.
The slap of her car door echoed across the courthouse parking lot just as the judge stepped out of his vehicle. And in that one loud, ugly moment, everything began to spiral. Before we continue, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. And if you enjoy powerful, real-life justice stories like this, make sure you subscribe so you don't miss what happens next. It was early afternoon outside the main courthouse building in Columbus. The sun sat high, reflecting off the long rows of parked cars and the wide glass front of the building. Lawyers in dark suits walked quickly across the lot, heads down, folders in hand. Security officers stood near the entrance, scanning everyone who passed. In the middle of the front row, closest to the courthouse entrance, was a clearly marked parking space. The sign read, "Reserved, Judge Only." The man who parked there that day was Judge Nathaniel Reed. He was a tall black man in his late 50s, with calm eyes and a steady walk. People who worked in that courthouse knew him as fair, firm, and respectful. He did not shout. He did not rush. He listened, and he decided. That day, he had just stepped out of his dark sedan, holding a slim leather folder, preparing to head inside for a full afternoon of hearings. That's when the shouting started. That's my spot." The voice cut through the air so sharply that several people turned at once. A white woman in a bright red blouse and tight face of anger was walking fast toward him, heels striking the pavement hard. Her name was Karen Whitlock. She was known around the courthouse, but not in a good way. She had a reputation for being loud, entitled, and always ready to argue. She pointed directly at the judge. "I've been parking there for weeks. You can't just take it because you feel like it." Judge Reed paused, slowly turning toward her. He looked at her calmly, not angry, not rushed. "I believe you may be mistaken," he said in a controlled, quiet voice. "This space is assigned to me." Karen let out a short, sharp laugh that carried more insult than humor. "Oh, please, don't play dumb with me. I know how this works. You people come in here and think you can take whatever you want." A few nearby lawyers stopped walking. The words hung in the air, heavy and uncomfortable. Judge Reed's face did not change. He stood straight, one hand resting lightly on his car door. "Ma'am," he said, still calm, "this is a courthouse. I suggest we speak with respect." Karen stepped closer, her voice rising. "Respect? You want respect? Then you should learn your place. This spot isn't for someone like you. It's for actual judges." There it was. Clear, loud, racist. Two courthouse clerks froze near the walkway. A security officer near the door straightened, watching closely now. Judge Reed did not raise his voice. He did not step back. He simply looked at her for a long second. Then he reached into his jacket and calmly pulled out his official courthouse ID. He held it up so she could see it clearly. Judge Nathaniel Reed, Court of Common Pleas. Karen's eyes flicked to the badge, then back to his face. For a split second, there was hesitation. Then her face twisted with even more anger. "I don't care what that says," she snapped. "There's no way you're a real judge. I've been coming here for years. I've never seen you. You people always fake your way into things." A low murmur moved through the small crowd forming nearby. Judge Reed slowly lowered his ID. "Ma'am, I will ask you one more time to calm down and move along so I can go to work." Karen folded her arms, planting herself directly in front of him, blocking his path. "No, you're not going anywhere until you move that car. I'm calling courthouse management right now. You're about to be removed." She pulled out her phone and started dialing, her hands shaking, not with fear, but with rage. Across the lot, a second security officer started walking toward them. Judge Reed exhaled slowly. "Very well," he said. "We can wait." Karen smirked like she had already won. "You're about to regret this," she said under her breath. "People like you always do." But what Karen didn't realize was that several people nearby already recognized the judge, and one of them had quietly stepped aside and called someone far more powerful than courthouse management. Because this moment was about to turn into something Karen Whitlock never saw coming. Karen Whitlock stood there with her phone still pressed to her ear, her foot tapping hard against the pavement as if she owned the ground beneath it, as if the whole courthouse rotated around her anger, and she had no idea she was seconds away from humiliating herself in front of the very system she thought she controlled. The small crowd in the parking lot had grown. Lawyers, clerks, and even a few people waiting for court had slowed down or stopped completely. They could feel something serious was unfolding. No one spoke loudly, but their eyes said everything. Judge Nathaniel Reed stood calm and still. He had not moved his car. He had not raised his voice. He had not taken the bait. His quiet presence made Karen's loud behavior look even worse. On her phone, Karen raised her voice for whoever was on the other end. "Yes, I'm at the front lot. There's a man parked in the reserved judge spot, and he's refusing to move." "Yes, refusing. I don't care what he's showing you. I know he's lying. You need to send someone down here right now." She hung up and looked around, making sure everyone heard her. "They're on the way," she said loudly, chin raised. This is what happens when rules are ignored. A security officer had now reached them. His name was Officer Dale Rivers, a tall man with a calm face and years of experience dealing with difficult situations. "Ma'am," Officer Rivers said in a steady tone, "I need you to lower your voice and step back." Karen turned to him with a sharp look. "Finally. Good. Remove him," she said, pointing at Judge Reed without even looking at him. Officer Rivers did not move. Instead, he turned toward the judge and gave a respectful nod. "Good afternoon, Your Honor." Karen blinked. Once, twice. What did you just say?" she asked slowly. Officer Rivers kept his posture straight. "I said good afternoon, Your Honor," he repeated, now clearly for everyone to hear. A ripple moved through the small crowd. Karen's face tightened. She looked back and forth between the officer and Judge Reed. "That's not funny," she snapped. "You don't have to play along with him." Officer Rivers turned back to her. "Ma'am, this is Judge Nathaniel Reed. This is his assigned parking space. I need you to step aside and let him pass." Karen's mouth opened slightly, then closed again. The confidence she had been wearing like armor began to crack, but only for a second. Then she doubled down. No, this is wrong. I know every judge that works here. I've been coming here for years. He's not one of them." Judge Reed spoke again, still calm. "Ma'am, the court expanded last year. I was appointed then." Karen shook her head hard. "No, I don't believe that. I don't. This whole thing feels wrong." Her voice dropped into a colder tone. "This is exactly the problem. Standards are falling. People getting positions they didn't earn." The words were quiet, but sharp enough that everyone heard what she meant. A younger clerk near the steps whispered to another, "Did she really just say that?" Officer Rivers' expression hardened slightly. "Ma'am, you need to be very careful with your words," he warned. But Karen was too far gone now. "I'm not scared," she said loudly. "I have rights. I'm not going to be pushed around by someone who doesn't belong here." Judge Reed looked at her for a long second. His face still showed control. But now there was something else behind his eyes. Disappointment. Not anger. Not fear. Just deep, tired disappointment. At that moment, another voice called out from the courthouse entrance. "Judge Reed." Everyone turned. Walking quickly toward them was Chief Administrator Helen Brooksley, a senior official who handled operations inside the courthouse. She was known for being strict, organized, and very serious about conduct on courthouse property. She reached them quickly, slightly out of breath, looking from Judge Reed, to Karen, to Officer Rivers. "What is going on here?" she asked. Karen jumped at the chance. "Finally, someone in charge," she said, stepping forward. "This man is impersonating a judge and took a reserved parking space. I want him removed immediately." Helen Brooksley looked at her in silence for a full 3 seconds. Then she turned slowly to Judge Reed. "Your Honor, are you all right?" "Yes," Judge Reed said calmly. "I'm fine. This woman seems to be confused about my identity and my parking space." Helen's face changed. Her tone turned cold and sharp. "Ma'am," she said to Karen, "you are speaking to a sitting judge of this courthouse." Karen's confidence cracked again, but this time the fear underneath started to show. I didn't know," she began, but the words came out weak. Helen did not soften. "Not knowing does not give you the right to insult, block, and disrespect a judge on courthouse property. And based on what I've already heard, your language crossed a serious line." Karen's breathing quickened. "I didn't mean." But Helen cut her off. "No, you meant exactly what you said." The parking lot had gone completely quiet now. Every eye was on Karen Whitlock. And for the first time since this started, she looked like she understood that she had made a very big mistake. But the consequences had only just begun. The silence in the parking lot felt heavier than any shouting. Karen Whitlock stood frozen, her phone still in her hand, her earlier confidence now gone. The same people who had watched her yell were now watching her face the truth, and she could feel every single pair of eyes on her. And then the next blow came. From the courthouse entrance, a tall man in a dark suit stepped forward with purpose. His walk was fast, direct, and controlled. People near the door moved aside the moment they saw him. It was District Attorney Leonard Grayson. Grayson reached the group and stopped beside Chief Administrator Helen Brooksley. He looked at her briefly, then at Judge Reed, then at Karen. "I got a call about a disturbance involving one of our judges," he said calmly. Helen gave a small nod. "You're looking at it," she replied. Grayson turned fully toward Karen. "Ma'am, I'm going to ask you to explain what happened here." Karen swallowed. Her voice was no longer loud. It was shaky. "Hi, I thought he was in the wrong parking spot. I didn't know he was a judge." Grayson's eyes did not soften. "I'm not asking what you thought," he said. "I'm asking what you said." Karen hesitated. The silence stretched. Several people in the crowd shifted uncomfortably. Judge Reed said nothing. He stood quietly, letting the truth come out on its own. Karen looked down for a moment, then spoke. "I told him. He didn't belong here," she said, almost whispering. Grayson nodded once. "Anything else?" Karen's lips trembled slightly. Said people like him take things they don't earn." The words hung in the air again, this time with no anger behind them, just the weight of what they meant. Grayson turned to Officer Rivers. "Officer, did you hear those statements?" "Yes, sir," Officer Rivers replied firmly. "I heard everything. Multiple witnesses did as well." Grayson looked at the small crowd. "Anyone here willing to confirm that?" Several hands went up immediately. A lawyer stepped forward. A clerk nodded firmly. Even a man waiting for his case raised his hand slowly. Karen looked around and saw that no one was on her side. No one. Grayson turned back to her. "Ma'am, do you understand where you are right now?" Karen nodded quickly. "At a courthouse," she said quietly. Grayson shook his head slightly. "No, you are on judicial property. You have verbally attacked a sitting judge, used racially charged language, and caused a public disturbance." Karen's eyes widened. "I didn't mean." But again, she was cut off. "Intent does not erase impact," Grayson said firmly. "And what you said carries serious weight in a place like this." Karen's breathing grew fast and uneven. "I just made a mistake," she said, her voice breaking now. "I didn't know. I was frustrated. I've been under stress." Judge Reed finally spoke again, but his voice was still calm. "Everyone has stress," he said. "Not everyone chooses hate." Karen looked at him, her eyes glossy now, but she had no answer. Helen Brooksley stepped forward, her expression firm. "Ms. Whitlock, based on your behavior, we are filing a formal incident report. Your access to courthouse parking is suspended effective immediately, and this report will be reviewed for further action." Karen's face drained of color. "Further action," she repeated weakly. Grayson answered that one. "Yes," he said, "because your words suggest bias against members of this court. That raises serious concerns if you are involved in any active cases here." Karen's eyes snapped up. "I have a case here next week," she said quickly. "I'm a witness. I have to be here." Grayson nodded once. "That will be reviewed. If your conduct shows prejudice, Your credibility as a witness may be questioned in court. That hit her harder than anything else. Her shoulders dropped. Her voice fell to almost nothing. I understand. The crowd remained silent. No one spoke for her. No one stepped in to help. Because what had happened was clear. And now, for the first time, Karen Whitlock truly saw the consequences of her own words. Judge Reed closed his car door gently and stepped around her. No rush, no anger. Just quiet dignity. As he walked toward the courthouse entrance, the security officers gave him space. People moved aside respectfully. Karen stood alone in the parking lot. The same spot where she had shouted, accused, and insulted was now the place where everything had fallen apart for her. And it wasn't over yet. Karen Whitlock did not move for several seconds after Judge Reed walked past her. The space where she had stood shouting just minutes earlier now felt like it was closing in on her. The crowd slowly began to break apart, people returning to their business, but many of them looked back at her one last time, not with anger, but with a quiet kind of judgment that was even worse, because now everything was on record. The courthouse did not forget things like this. Inside the building, Chief Administrator Helen Brooksley was already moving quickly. She had asked Officer Rivers and 2 witnesses to come with her to the administrative office. Statements were being written, names were being recorded, times, exact words, and behavior were all documented carefully. District Attorney Leonard Grayson joined them as well. His job was not just to punish, it was to protect the fairness of the court. And what Karen had said in that parking lot raised serious questions about her ability to take part in any legal process without bias. Meanwhile, Judge Nathaniel Reed had entered the courthouse quietly and continued his day. He did not ask for special treatment. He did not delay his hearings. He did what he always did. He served the law with calm focus. But word of what happened spread quickly through the building. By the end of the afternoon, nearly every office in the courthouse had heard about it. And by the end of the day, Karen Whitlock was called back inside. She sat across a wide wooden desk from Helen Brooksley and Leonard Grayson. The room was quiet, formal, and serious. Helen spoke first. Ms. Whitlock, we have reviewed the statements from multiple witnesses, including a security officer. The accounts match clearly. Your language and actions were unacceptable for this courthouse. Karen nodded slowly, her hands clenched in her lap. I understand, she said softly. Grayson leaned forward slightly. As a result, 3 things are now in motion, he said. Karen looked up, fear in her eyes. First, your parking privileges on courthouse property are revoked indefinitely. Karen swallowed. Second, an official conduct report will be attached to your name in our system. This means any future interaction you have with this court will be viewed in light of today's behavior. Karen's breathing grew heavier. And third, Grayson continued, your role as a witness in next week's case is under review. The defense has already been notified about your statements today. They may challenge your credibility on the stand. Karen's face went pale. That case is important, she said quickly. It could decide whether someone goes to jail. I was there. I saw what happened. Grayson nodded once. And the court will decide whether your testimony can be trusted to be fair and unbiased. The room went silent again. Karen looked down at her hands. I made a terrible mistake, she whispered. I wish I could take it back. Helen's voice softened slightly, but her words stayed firm. Words carry weight, Ms. Whitlock, especially in a place where justice is supposed to be equal for everyone. Karen nodded again, tears now forming in her eyes. I understand, she repeated. The meeting ended shortly after that. Karen walked out of the courthouse slower than she had walked in. No raised voice now. No anger. Just the heavy reality of what she had done and what it had cost her. Outside, the same parking lot was quiet again. The judge's reserved space stood empty now, waiting for the next day. And in that space, there was a lesson that would not be forgotten. Judge Nathaniel Reed continued his work in the weeks that followed, respected even more by those who had seen how he handled that moment, with calm, dignity, and strength. And Karen Whitlock? Her name remained in the courthouse records. A reminder that in a place built on fairness, respect is not optional. And when someone chooses hate over respect, the consequences do not disappear. They stay. They follow. And they teach a lesson that lasts far longer than a single moment in a parking spot.